Let's just throw one random round of the Premiership in between the European and the Six Nations. But it delivered, and we had some great games in the URC and in the top 14. And we are going to cover it all today in the next 10 or 15 minutes. So thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Sinead, and this is All Things Rugby. Let's start with the Premiership, where the table is really starting to get a divide because Leicester turned it on in London and absolutely put Quins to the sword, who apparently only like playing in Europe. So Leicester are now into that top four. But elsewhere, Sale had their last chance for them to keep their season going. Unfortunately, Henry, Pollock and Northampton Saints ran wild up north. Man, the game was close, and then HP comes on and does what he does. Gets the turnover, scores an incredible try, and the way he absolutely burned George Ford for the try as well. Man, this guy is going to cause some serious damage in the Six Nations. Elsewhere, one for the purists, as at Sandy Park, the heavens opened and it absolutely bucketed it down as Exeter welcomed Bristol, who Bristol still tried to play and move the ball around, but the game had one try and finished 8-3 to Bristol. So I wouldn't recommend watching those highlights, but if you do want to watch the highlights of a game, go and check Noah Calouri, now the Premiership top try scorer, with another absolutely amazing performance as Saracens ran over Red Bulls. And if you haven't seen already, they managed to get onto social media and beat them off the pitch as well. So, yeah, look, great win for Sarries. They play great rugby at time, and Newcastle were getting better week on week, but just look like they're running out of steam. They've spent so much time and energy planning next season and getting all these new signings that it's almost like they've forgotten that they've still got to play for the rest of the year. So Saracens absolutely dealt with them. The last game in the Prem was the derby between Gloucester and Bath. And oh my God, Gloucester are playing such good rugby. And it's just such a shame they can't get it over the line. They started really well. They took the lead. Atkinson, both of them, but mainly in that 12 shirt, Seb Atkinson looks like he could be getting a start for England in the upcoming Six Nations as well. He is playing so good and could be a real answer in that 12 jersey for England. So, yeah, look, Bath obviously ran wild afterwards, and I put it up on X. We need to see this salary cap. We need to see their team sheet and how much they're spending, because their bench is so stacked, it's a joke. But Bath and Saints running away at the top of the table. So, yeah, look, both probably going to get home games in the playoffs, but we're obviously going to take a big break for the Premiership now. But we are going to see lots of these players involved in the Six Nations. So that should be good. Over in the URC, we had everything this weekend. We had the Lions getting their second draw in a row. We got the Bulls finally winning in a very, very tough away match at Edinburgh. We had Sharks and the Stormers in front of 52,000 people in Cape Town. So whenever people are saying, oh, it doesn't work with the South Africans being in this league, man, when they want to and they get behind their team, it is incredible. The atmosphere was off the chart. That sellout stadium is so good. And the rugby that was on show was, again, incredible to watch. Like when Sasha and Willemse link up, it's a thing of beauty. But the Sharks, Fassi is gunning for that 15 Springbok jersey up front. Forget everyone else. What am I even talking about? Andre Esterhuizen. The guy captained the Sharks again this weekend, and not only was an absolute monster in midfield, both sides of the ball. For lineouts, they're putting him there, and he scored on the back of a maul. Like, we're talking about hybrid players. Andre Esterhuizen, man, he's kicking left foot boot, penalty kicks to touch. He's helping in the back line. He's helping the forwards. Incredible performance by him and the Sharks in Cape Town. Next week, they've got the return fixture in Durban. And I'm telling you now, the Stormers are going to come absolutely gunning. But one thing I would say, Sasha had a good game, don't get me wrong, right? And he's very talented, and we know how good he is. He did miss a very easy penalty. He missed a conversion, and that was the difference in the game. So when everyone was giving me stick about Jalibert, well, you know, go and watch some rugby. Elsewhere, it looked like the Dragons were going to beat Munster in what could have been one of the shocks of the season. But Munster managed to just claw it back at the end. And yeah, look, they didn't obviously go well in Europe. They brought that form into the URC, and Munster, there's a lot of questions being asked there. And We bigged them up at the beginning of the season. We spoke about how many players need to get into this Ireland squad. But man, if you're struggling to beat Dragons at home, questions are going to be asked. And talking about underperforming Irish players, Ulster went to Wales to play bottom of the league Scarlets. And oh my God, Scarlets put it on them. Ulster managed to bring it back. And then last play of the game, Sam Costello has really, really just risen from the ashes again. Like, he was obviously Wales's 10 couple of years ago, and it was like, right, him or Johan Lloyd. He managed to secure the jersey. And then with Dan Edwards coming through, there was talks about Jared Evans. He just kind of went into the background again. What's a performance against Ulster? So fair play to him. And that is really good for the Welsh sides going into next week. But I'm going to mention it again because out of nowhere, they're up to, I think, third now. Leinster win again. Man, I need to just eat my words and apologise to Leinster fans. Like, you started slow, but then in Europe you went 4 from 4, obviously smacked up Quins along the way as well. But the last couple of weeks you have just absolutely dug out victory after victory, and you've rotated so much. There's been so many injuries, especially the front row. We got more injuries up front this week as well. But yeah, Leinster are clearly up into that decent playoff position and probably going to get a home run. So fair play. Over to France, where our boys on Rossbis Rugby gave us a heads up that there was a 0.00002% chance that this could happen in the league. But in this weekend's fixtures, you had first versus second, third versus fourth, fifth versus sixth, all the way down to 13th versus 14th, which was absolutely unbelievable. And it gave such good competitive matches. So if you haven't seen already, jump over to allthingsrugby.com and on the Rugby app to check all of the highlights from top 14, because this week there was some absolutely bangers. The biggest one on Saturday afternoon, if you didn't manage to watch this, please go and watch it, was Bordeaux at home to Stade Francais. Now, look, both teams love to play attacking rugby, right? And we've seen how good Bordeaux were in the EPCR. Wow, Guzzi would have just absolutely killed them during the week because Stade Francais turned up and meant business. And even with Jalabert scoring the most unbelievable solo try, again, he's the best 10 in the world at the moment, Stade Francais managed to win. Now, after the last couple of years, they've been really up and down. And again, there was questions about whether Guzzi was the right guy. They had lots of foreigners come into Stade Francais for the first time in a long while. But this season, man, they're up there. And again, going into the playoffs, they're in a great position to start getting these home wins. And potentially, if they've just beaten Bordeaux, who knows, can they take on Toulouse? The other big shock in the top 14 came at Bayonne when they hosted Cass. And not only did Cass get a win, that puts them up to 7th and actually drops Bayonne down to, I think it's 10th or 11th now with a couple of games to still be played. So yeah, look, lots of movement happening in France. Please, please, please do not sleep on this league. This league is so good to watch. And if I don't mention this one of our editors, Steve Noble, will probably text me and give me some shit for it. So Japan, man, this league, every single week, there is some absolutely outstanding plays from the foreigners over there. And this week, we had Richie Mwanga letting the world know that he is still one of the best players in the world. And he managed to get a last-minute try against the Spears to help Lupus to a big, big win and give Spears their first loss of the season. 79th minute, show and go, goes under the sticks. Incredible by who, no doubt, all the All Blacks fans are wanting back into that 10 jersey for them. So, Richie Mwanga, we see you, bro. The other huge game this week in Japan was Wild Knights taking on Sun Goliath. Now, if you haven't already, go and see Colby for Sun Goliath this year. He is kicking conversions and penalties, and in this game was no different. But Damien D'Yolanda's team managed to just creep over to keep them top of the league and undefeated with 6 wins from 6. So make sure, again, all the highlights are on allthingsrugby.com and on the Rugby app. So go and check out some of these highlights from Japan League One. A quick roundup of the news this week before we start focusing on the Six Nations. Mr. Ventnor, the best interview you'll ever see in rugby, is returning, as Mark McCall said he's going to step down from Saracens. So again, massive call there, bringing in the former director of rugby and South African doctor back to StoneX. So that's a very interesting one to keep an eye on. The Greatest Rivalry announced their 4th test will be going to Baltimore. That's a very, very interesting one. We knew that they were looking at going over to the States, but Yeah, they have said that Baltimore are going to host the fourth test of the great rivalry between the Springboks and the All Blacks. So, great opportunity to start watching some MLR. And if you planning any sort of rugby trip, this might be the one you do this year. Over in Wales, we've had nothing but drama all week, and it's even gone full political mode. So now we're at a point where the WRU have said that Cardiff will be sold to the owners of Ospreys, but for at least another year, they'll be run as separate clubs. So what this means long term, no one knows, as usual, and no doubt this week we'll get more drama. So if you haven't already, jump over to our website and check out Hugh Griffin's rundown of everything that's happening in Welsh rugby. And just to wrap things up, down in Australia, the Waratahs decided to start pre-season with a Royal Rumble, and it all kicking off in training. So we'll be posting that video, so make sure you get a look at that as well. Next week, we have one round of the URC and a round of the top 14 to keep an eye on. So we'll be breaking that down later on in the week. But we are going to start looking towards the Six Nations. We've already got some reviews of the squads over on our social media channels, but we're going to do a video for you guys on YouTube as well to break down all of the squads and our thoughts and predictions going into this year's Guinness Six Nations. As always, thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe and drop your comments into the comment section below. My name is Shanae, and this has been All Things Rugby.